Looks like just about everybody has found a seat. I want to welcome you guys. My name is Jason Golden. I'm the Deputy Superintendent for the school system. And we are thrilled with this turnout for our introduction of our online learning program. And you guys can see from the first page of the PowerPoint, we're describing this as blended and online learning. I'm not going to present the bulk of the substance tonight, but I did want to introduce it and let you know first, last year we had 202 total student classes taken online that got credit on their transcript at the high school level for us. And we decided that that was really kind of a tipping point for us, that we wanted to start taking a more active management role and leadership role in addressing online school. And I think many of you guys know the fact that you're here indicates this. You know that a lot of colleges are included blending learning models in their work. A lot of programs require you to take sometimes a course or two at the collegiate level. So we're very excited that you are here. Also, our board, in the course of going through our strategic plan process, recognized this, and they added a goal for the next 7 years of introducing a blended online model led by us. And when we saw the numbers slowly start to go up, we decided we didn't want to wait. If we waited a little bit, as we're standing here now, we'd be waiting another 1.5 years before we were able to start this. So over the last few months, we got aggressive, and we were able to get this program introduced on a rollout pilot level. Now what we're going to do today is walk through a PowerPoint video. I know many of you picked up some handouts that we had. We printed 70. I will tell you, you guys, you shocked us. I'm very excited that we've got this room just almost full of you. And that actually tells us one result of this is we may do a little bit more than we're going to present tonight than we originally intended. Because the 202 seats, we're ballparking, and Charles Farmer, our assistant superintendent for middle and high schools, will present this. We decided to multiply that number by about 2.5 for this coming year. If you all are an indication, we may need more than that, and that may be one of the results of this meeting. But what we're going to do tonight is present our plan. We have an FAQ document that many of you have, not all of you, we've run out. We have an FAQ document. What we're hoping to do tonight is add to that FAQ as a result of some of what you share with us, some of the questions you've asked. And we have decided to go really high-tech with that since this is online. We're going to pass out 3x5 note cards and get you to write your questions down. One of the reasons we're doing that is because we're recording this. We set an hour schedule for this from 6 to 7. We're going to post this discussion online. We want to make sure the audio is good, number one. So we're going to have some of our folks read the questions. And so as the presentation gets started, we're going to pass those cards around. If you have a question that's either not on that FAQ or that you just have off the top of your head, write that down. The reality is, because of our attendance here, we're probably not going to be able to answer every question tonight. But we are going to add those questions and answers to our FAQ document. Dr. Farmer's going to give you a lot of that detail. I know Dr. LaChance, Laura LaChance is also here. The two of them will share this presentation with you guys. And I don't know, how many of you had Dr. LaChance, and some of you students had her as an elementary principal years ago? All right, I figured there'd be somebody in the audience. So Dr. Farmer, I already told you, is our assistant superintendent for middle and high schools. Dr. LaChance is our special projects director, and we're very excited to roll this out. So with that, nothing else being said, Dr. Farmer, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Now, there have been a lot of us that have been working through this for really several months. Mr. Gaddis, Tim Gaddis, our assistant superintendent for teaching, learning, and assessment, has been really working on this for probably more than 10 months. And so we kind of had an ebb and flow with this. Becky Mitchell, who was our counselor specialist, where Becky went. She's back there. She's also been involved with this. And it's Dr. Allen, Dave Allen here yet? And then Dave Allen, who is the Executive Director of Secondary Ed as well. So, like Mr. Golden said, we're going to try to present a broad overview of what year one looks like. And then we're all going to come up here and try to answer some of the questions you may have in the time that we have allotted tonight. And so I think it's important to understand that we just ask y'all, this is a big endeavor. It's something different for us, and we don't have all the answers tonight. And I know you want all the answers, but we're not going to hide behind the fact that we have every answer for you tonight. And so I just want to be upfront and transparent about that on the front end before we get started. So some of the reasons that we've talked about for this process, and it is a process, is there are a lot of things that go into the notion of why we should do online learning, whether it's flexible scheduling, additional credits for kids, retaking courses. There are a variety of reasons. And as we roll out this year one, there's going to be a lot more structure than there may be around the online program a year from now or 2 years from now. We've done site visits, we've read the research, and so we're trying to make sure, based off of the colleagues we have around the Southeast, that we use what they've experienced to make wise decisions. And so at the end of the day, looking long term, all these different reasons are a few of the reasons why we would go down this road. And I make the comment about they run counter to what our first year rollout is going to look like, because it is going to be a little bit more structured than maybe some of you in the room tonight think it would be. So a lot of times when you think about online courses, you just think a kid, a student, college student, high school student sits in front of a computer and does schoolwork, does their work electronically. Well, one of the things that we are doing, at least in this first year, is the research tells us that blended learning is a key component to have kids be successful in the online platform. And so from a definitional standpoint, blended learning means that it's both online and that there is some face-to-face time. That's, in essence, what that slide says. Kids can work on it at all different kinds of places electronically, but then they're going to be expected to meet with a Williamson County teacher periodically throughout the school year for, if it's a science class, for labs, for Socratic seminars, for English classes, a variety of things such as that. It's not strictly where they sit behind a computer. So, in short, if we had two boxes up here, if we drew a line down the middle, the courses that we will roll out in year one for the 18-19 school year, will, as I just said, will be taught by Williamson County teachers at no cost to the student or parent. They will receive an A through F grade like normal. And right now, we're still working with NCAA to determine if we can get them NCAA approved. Currently, they are not. On the other side, we are in conversation right now with Florida Virtual Schools to provide a suite of all the other courses, because the truth is, a lot of times when our folks, those 202 courses that Mr. Golden referenced, we have students who want either an easy grade or they would like a cost-effective grade. But as we vetted the programs from curriculum all the way through customer service, at this point, our conversations have honed in on Florida Virtual for online courses that aren't part of what we will end up offering this year. And that is a change, and we recognize that that's a big shift, because the process, for those of you in the room who have kids in high school and who have done online, know essentially they turn in a form to their counselor vets it, the principal vets it, ultimately Ms. Mitchell and I vet it, and if it's an accredited school, then we will allow that to happen. But we see a lot of deficiencies, and I won't name names, we agreed not to name names, in some of the courses, some of the vendors that our kids are taking courses from. So that right side is a shift. Those will be any additional courses that are student or parent paid, and they will remain pass-fail, which is our current policy. So you probably have seen this if you've been following this. Right now, as Mr. Golden also alluded to, we're looking around 500 seats from a cost standpoint. We don't know until we go through the registration process if that needs to shift any. We will hire WCS teachers as those teachers, the online teachers for these courses. The courses that may end up making are the ones that are listed here. If you got a handout, I know we wouldn't make more copies, but the registration form, which to your point is also paper instead of electronic, which is also irony too, has these courses listed. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's your traditional core courses for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, plus down at the bottom you see personal finance, PE2, lifetime wellness. The thing for this first year is these courses, except for the AP course, AP Computer Science, will be at the standard level. And the students in the room, which I'm glad to see a lot of y'all here, y'all have already registered for your classes, and so if your course that you would like to take or courses that you would like to take don't end up making because of enough interest, then you're just going to have the normal schedule that you've already registered for this school year. So I'm gonna go through these bullets kind of slowly because this is where the model is more defined than maybe when you came in the room tonight that you thought it was going to be, at least for year one. Now, as we collect data throughout year one, it may become more flexible. If we are in a position to grow to a full online high school, all these variables may change. But for year one, students will earn a grade for the online course taught by our teachers. We mentioned that a minute ago. If they're doing an online course not by our teachers, it'll still be pass-fail. For this first year, students can enroll in no more than 2 courses online at any given time. No cost to the students for any WCS taught courses. We've already talked about the blended model. Now, I want to talk about I'm scared to use the pointer. He told me to be careful. I want to talk about the 2 to 6 here. So, that seems like an odd number probably to you, but what we wanted the expectation of the face-to-face time with the teachers, but we also realized, as an example, if chemistry makes, there may be a couple of times a month or 1 month in October where they have to have 2 two-day labs, and there may be another where they just get together for a face-to-face check that's 2 times during the month, and so, or there may be a particular course that doesn't require as many meetings. So these types of decisions are the ones that I'm telling y'all on the front end that it'll be for those of us that have gone through the academic process where we sometimes have to figure out like when the syllabus comes out, those kind of things, where folks land on how many times they need to meet. This is still a gray area, but I think an average of 4 once a week is a fair average, but that's subject to change based off of academic need and those kind of things. Additionally, there is a 15-day grace period at the beginning of the course for students to just say, you know what, I thought I was going to do this, it's not for me. And then they'll return to their own school in the same course. The school, if it needs to be an honors course, the school would deal with that at the building level. Additional expectations and points of emphasis about this particular the blended model. For this first year, this has been one of those ebb and flow topics for us in terms of pacing. But after a site visit, Dr. Looney himself actually made a site visit to Forsyth, Georgia, and some of the information they provided us, they're one of our sister districts and a consortium of 10 or 12 high-performing districts throughout the United States. Forsyth really said that they moved too quickly, too fast, so we landed on the pacing for this first year similar to what our scope and sequences currently already pace for this first year process. Now, speaking of pacing, if during the course a kid is just not pulling their weight, they're not doing what the teacher expects them to do, then they may be expected to meet more frequently with the teacher. We will have an administrator for this, for the online courses as well. We'll have an assistant principal who will be in contact with those students and their parents who are part of the online program. So that may increase depending on, it would be just like if you think about the traditional model, if a kid has to stay after school for tutoring, same kind of rule applies here outside that 2 to 6 that I mentioned on the previous slide. I already mentioned this next one. This process, the filling out a request to enroll in an online course, we already do that. That will remain the same. The only difference currently is that we are looking at one vendor that we feel meets the academic expectation of Williamson County. And so, but if you want to take a course that we don't offer, it'll be the same process as it currently is. And then we've established this too by saying you can only take 2 courses. For this first year, you can't be exclusively online. So what makes an effective online student? Y'all, do we have handouts now going around? Has Ms. Calvert been able to come back yet? Okay, she's going to come back, but one of the handouts for those of y'all that have them is a rubric that actually lets you as parents and you as students evaluate, are you really ready for this endeavor? And so from that, you'll also kind of see some education language, here for, you got to be a good reader. You got to have good time management skills. You got to be motivated from the inside, intrinsically motivated. You got to have self-discipline, those kind of go hand in hand. You got to be willing to advocate for yourself, students, and communicate with your online teacher that you don't see every day and doesn't see you every day. You have to be one who is academically driven to have your own independent study habits. All these things may seem like they make common sense, but if it just sounds good to jump in and take an online course, these are, from the data, these are all important components for you to think about. And again, we found a really and I don't remember the state, Michigan. The rubric is what the state of Michigan uses for students to self-evaluate, parents to self-evaluate if their kids are really ready for an online course. And so you will get that handout tonight if you haven't gotten it yet. So this is the not electronic form that you also, if you haven't gotten, you will get, or the schools will have them tomorrow with all the courses listed here and some of the basic points that I just talked about. And then this up here basically just tells you that if the course doesn't make, then you're going to be in your normal course at your zone school. It's very similar actually to the registration form that a lot of our high schools currently use. So registration for the online courses will begin tomorrow officially, and they'll run through Friday the 20th. And what we're going to do is we're going to compile all this data into a Google form at the building level and get everybody together so we know what students from what schools, what courses are of most interest, see how the allocation of teachers work. And I would hope sometime around the 1st of May we'll know kind of which courses likely will make it and which ones won't. I think that what I would say for myself, I was a high school principal in this county before moving to this role. I think the thing that I would say to y'all from a high school principal's perspective related to the registration process is what I alluded to earlier. Our kids, our students have already gone through the registration process. So really this will almost look like a drop and add kind of a thing for those kids that end up going the online route. So if a kid is currently in chemistry, sign up for chemistry, and they want to do it online and that class makes, then we'll just use, their schedule may change a little bit at the building level, but we'll just put their chemistry online into the schedule, or if it doesn't make, their schedule will just stay the same. So this online readiness rubric is what I just referred to earlier. Also, the counselors at the building level can also, we've had numerous meetings with principals and counselors. They are expecting your questions, and so they can be of help. We can be of help as well. I think that the last kind of bit of information that I would make sure before I bring the whole team up here, that I would tell you all about this is that when we roll this out, we're gonna have to evaluate. It's gonna be strictly based off of from an initial standpoint on where the student interest lies. That's the way we have to roll this first round out. So comparable data for us is, this may not work this way this year, but as an example, those 200 students who did online this previous year, about 85 or 90 of those were personal finance. And so we're going to have to evaluate, if we have 90 kids sign up for personal finance, do we really want to use 90? Do we want to use 90 of 500 seats on that? And so I would ask for the last thing I would say is I'd ask for your patience and understanding. Please ask the questions. And by the way, thank y'all for, we at last check, we had about 35 responses on our Google form we sent out. A lot of the questions from the FAQ that y'all asked were a part of those questions. As Mr. Golden already said earlier, the additional questions tonight will be vetted and added to this FAQ as we update it as well. But I just would just ask that y'all ask us the questions, ask the schools the questions, but also understand that we are trying to make sure that we roll this out in a way that's meticulous and thoughtful and not get too far ahead of ourselves. So with that, Mr. Golden.
Dr. Farmer, just a couple of things I wanted to emphasize as we're gathering up some of your questions on your presentation. Number one of the things we really focused on is making sure we maintain one of the things.
Don't keep them together.
I love technology. This online makes you all work a whole lot better. One of the things I wanted to
One at a time.
That's a bad microphone. From Dr. Farmer's presentation is we spent a lot of time talking about quality. One of the things our board members emphasize, and many of them are here tonight, I would like you guys to introduce yourself before we finish, is we want to maintain WCS quality in everything we do. And so we are going to emphasize our scope and sequence. We had some trouble with some of those private providers who really left students on their own till the very end to just dump everything out at the end of a semester. That's not what we're doing. We're focusing on our scope and sequence, and our teachers will be involved through that blended model. Now you guys also saw where Dr. Farmer mentioned the 2 to 6 meeting times. One of the things we're emphasizing to our teachers who are going to be doing this work is do what the college teachers do. Once you get your cohort group of students, find out about their schedules. Schedule those times that minimize the negative impact on your particular students. You know, a lot of those students over the traditional age will take a college course. That professor will talk to their students and say, I want to have an online discussion. These are possible dates. You guys tell me your schedule. We're going to make sure that our teachers do that with the students as well so that they can maximize those opportunities. So we're not setting those times in stone right now because it's going to be driven by student needs. So we're trying to balance the high school experience with that collegiate experience that we've seen on some of those online courses. We're not going to leave your students out there hanging out to dry on their own, but it's not going to be nearly as tight as it might be in a classroom setting. I wanted to make sure you guys understood that. So Dr. Farmer, I know we do have some questions. Tim, Gaddis, Dave, if you guys don't mind, let's step up and let's all get near each other so that when a question is made, we can pass the microphone for whoever is best capable of answering the question. And Dr. LaChance, you've got a couple, so why don't you just start?
The first question was, can students still take classes from other vendors this summer, like BYU? This summer is just like it has been, so whatever you're doing or have done in the past, you can continue to do this summer. None of this begins until fall of 2018, so August.
So if you're looking to do that, do it this summer, because this transition starts in the fall.
When will you know if the classes will be NCAA approved? That one's kind of...
We don't know because the NCAA is, those of y'all that know about the NCAA, they work on their own time frame and schedule. And so we've been talking to them since, I guess Dr. Qualls, our AD, probably first reached out to them in November, and we still don't have an answer. So we're not certain. That's one of those unanswered questions that we're still trying to get.
The NCAA is the NCAA. It's for athletes who are looking to participate in an NCAA sport at the collegiate level. The NCAA has a clearinghouse that you have to enter all your child's data so that they determine if they qualify to become an athlete for their purposes under the NCAA rules. There's also an NAIA. Many of you may have children who participate in NAIA athletics through particular colleges. A lot of times if you have a coach recruiting your child, they will have a conversation with you and emphasize that you first need to go online and make sure your child has passed that eligibility standard of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA. And boy, they're strict. Yeah. I'm pretty tall, so my children, you might guess what sport they participated in. And it takes a lot of work on the front end. Your counselors can help you walk through that if you're in that boat.
Baseball, right?
Yeah.
All right, so another question while they're sorting down there. When can students do more than 2 subjects or go online completely? We're not sure what that will look like. Like Dr. Farmer said, we'd like to gather data to see how this year goes. We want to do everything methodically, purposefully, and make sure that Williamson County seal of excellence remains on it. If all goes well, we could anticipate a 2019, but again, at this point, we're just working on making sure that this goes well.
So I have 2 here. One is, will online courses be available to freshmen? And the answer is yes, they will be. And then the other question here, actually is a statement and then a question with that. Only 500 seats doesn't seem to serve your student base, and we're kind of getting that. I hope seniors who need credit get first pick. I want to make sure that folks understand, remember, we have a credit recovery program, and this is not that. Credit recovery will continue to be there for those students who may have gotten to the senior year and be behind on credit, or certainly by the time they're freshmen they can begin credit recovery if that's something that they need to do. That's a completely separate program, and so that would not affect these 500 or however many seats we end up with. So students will be able to, if they get credit deficient, they'll be able to make those up. And another one, do you anticipate offering online summer classes for credit in the future? And I do think that's a big part of the vision for this, because we've been looking for ways that we can begin to do things year-round, and summer is a good time for us to be doing that. So it's not this year, but in the future, yes.
So another question we have is, how does it work for the school day? Do they leave early or come late? Dr. Looney emphasized that he wants this for the first year to be a leave early. It will replace the last period or 2 in a student's school day, and they would leave early for this first year. We do anticipate as this grows and develops over the course of time, it will expand. I know some of you might have students, or some of you students are taking classes at Columbia State. You might have an early one or a late one. But to minimize the variables, Dr. Looney emphasized that he was really looking for us to do a leave early structure this first year. So the question is, and I want to make sure that since we're recording this, I want to make sure the question comes out. How will you know if they're leaving early with after school activities? This is an online course. Student is, by and large, choosing the time that they work on their course based on their personal schedule. Dr. Farmer mentioned that there will be those occasional meetings, those periodic meetings with their professor. I'm saying professor, right? I've still got the collegiate model in my head. With their teacher, that they will work out with that teacher for those particular times. So we're not saying that the moment you leave school, you better be working on your course. They've got flexibility. That's a critical nature of that online course. Yeah, Tim?
And I think one of the things that I'm understanding here, students will not be forced to leave the campus at that time. So, you know, there will still be study halls available and places for them to be where they're able to work on their online course so that they didn't have to leave and then come back to campus. Was that the question?
Dr. LaChance, you got another one? Next question. Dave. Okay. 8th graders who are taking high school courses, are they eligible? Dr. Farmer?
No, the current policy, and it will not change, this is only for high school students, 9th grade through 12th grade. Online classes are only for 9th through 12th grade. That's either WCS offered or through a vendor that's not WCS. I'll just grab another one here and see. I see a lot of questions about transportation. Yeah, this is a choice. We're offering these courses in the building, and so transportation will be at the expectation of the family to get their child to those periodic class meetings, or to pick up if a kid is taking off the last 2 periods of the day and wanting to leave school. They'll either have to drive themselves or a parent will have to come pick them up.
Our regular bus service will still be available. To your question earlier, if a student stays, you know, during the time that they would be, you know, replacing that course for their online time, if they ride the bus on the way home, that's perfectly fine. That normal bus schedule will continue, and that will be available to everyone at their home school.
These two questions are related. Can a student take a full course at their zone school and then take additional online courses? Yes, they can with this model. If he adds one online course and drops the same course in his own school, it means he can take another course to fill out that period, right? Yes. Average cost for Florida virtual school courses is $450.
Charles?
So this has a few questions that are really good and straightforward. Will students then be coming to school late or leaving early if they are online? Yes, or as Mr. Golden just said, if the school has a place for them to work at the end of the day, they can do that. Any summer classes offered? I think Mr. Gaddis answered this earlier. This first year, no, but going forward, more than likely, almost certainly, yes. Can the classes be completed quicker or at students' pace? Not during this first year. Maybe long term it'll switch to that, but not during this first year. And our meetings at students' home school, that's a great question. We're currently working on the location. Our intent is to find as centrally as possible located facility, because kids may be coming from Fairview and Brentwood for the same physics course. And so we're working on a location as we speak. We're just not prepared to announce that location.
So here's one just real quick on GPA, the impact on GPA. So if you recall, Dr. Farmer emphasized that if they are one of the 500 seats, that's a WCS teacher that follows our scope and sequence. Those students will get a grade. That grade will then impact their GPA. If it's outside of the 500 seats that you were to choose to purchase through the vendor, that is a pass-fail, as it always has been. That has no impact, positively or negatively, on GPA.
I did want to add a little bit to the question Dr. Farmer mentioned a minute ago about pacing. The Florida Virtual Exclusive Program, which is a pass-fail, can be accelerated if your student chooses to go through that quicker.
The question that I got handed was, can we download the presentation and the handouts yet? Not yet, but I can tell you that Carol Birdsong and her fabulous department are working on that. I sent that to them late this evening, right before I left to come over here, and so knowing Ms. Birdsong, she'll have that up by this Friday. So look for the link to that in the In Focus this Friday.
And so this question, will dual enrollment be available to those taking online classes? Once again, these are separate things entirely. Dual enrollment, in our dual enrollment classes, the student is actually enrolled at Columbia State or some other higher ed institution, and they're getting both high school credit and college credit for that course. That's a completely separate thing. These courses are courses for high school credit. They're not for college credit. And so the answer to this is yes, absolutely. You can do both. My child is currently enrolled in all honors and AP courses. When will these be available? I don't think we know the answer to that. I think part of that, I think this meeting is telling us something about what that demand will be. I do anticipate that in the future we'll add those types of courses, just not this first year.
So I've got a couple of questions here related. First, we have, if a student wants to take 4 courses that are 0.5, can you register for all 4, 2 for the first semester and 2 for the next? And so I'd have to go back to the course list, but I think for us, the PE2, personal finance, U.S. government, and economics are the 4.5 courses we potentially will offer. So don't want to confuse you, but theoretically, since it does say 2 courses at any given time, yes, a student can take Econ and Government the first semester and take PE2 and Personal Finance the second semester. But you can't be enrolled in more than 2 at any given time. The other question, now I'm going to answer this one, and hopefully it won't get too convoluted. Fair question for us to try to explain to y'all. How do you choose who gets the first 500 spots? And so I'm going to answer that 2 ways, and of course we've all been dealing with this, so y'all take the mic from me if y'all would like. But so we're going to take it by course. Kind of reference when I was doing the presentation, I talked about currently personal finance is a biggie for us, PE is a biggie for us. So what we're going to do is going to take in all the course requests. It may be that of the 20 or so courses that are up there in small print, that 15 of them we have little to zero interest. So we'll temporarily at least pull those out, and we'll see how many kids sign up for those other 5 courses. And if that's under 500 kids, then it's pretty simple. But if we get in a situation where there's a cross section of all courses and we've got 1,200 kids signing up, we have a process. I mentioned in the presentation as well. I didn't go deep into it because y'all really don't care. But what we're going to do with those paper documents, each school is going to input that data. And when it shoots into a spreadsheet, it's not like the zoning form where you get the timestamp on it. The timestamp doesn't matter. Your child will get a number. And so if Centennial High School enters in a kid and they're number 2, and then Summit enters a kid and they're 15, that'll be their number. And if geometry is a course where we've only got 35 seats and we've got 52 kids signing up, then we're going to do a lottery, like Hume Fogg does it to select their folks. We'll take the numbers of every kid, whether it's that kid at Centennial that's number 2 or that kid at Summit that's 15, and we'll draw numbers to select how we get the 35 that fill the seats. And so this is one of those points when I was saying earlier that have patience with us, is that because we don't know yet until we see what the kids register for, what that part of it's going to look like. But I do think that it's important for us to talk to y'all about it and let y'all know that we have a plan related to how we're going to try to pick a lottery if it comes to that. So I have 2 hands related to that particular question, and I don't mind going off script if we're related to that. I just want to try to answer as many questions as possible.
Just real quick, when you were talking about, like, if we have 35 in geometry, like a seat limit, would you have higher numbers of available spots in, like, lifetime wellness and PE? Do those classes have higher spots? Number of seats, I guess?
And so, not necessarily. So what it really... repeat the question is each course assigned a certain number of seats? That's the question is that. And so, no, what we're looking at 500 seats, so total. So if no kids sign up for personal finance, but only 100 kids sign up and they all sign up for English 2, then we've got 400 seats left over, and we're going to put 100 kids that want to stay in there in English 2. And so there's no, I think the only thing that would be appropriate to say is our current conversations have been to use class size, which is at the state level, which is that 35 number I mentioned. That's a state. Yes, ma'am.
What if your child is currently taking online classes because of medical necessity?
So I think that in the current situation, the first year, my response to that would be that as we roll this out initially, I would encourage you probably already are, to think through the homebound or 504 process as opposed to the online process. Do you have anything to add?
We're going to continue to serve our students who have medical issues, who have IEP issues, etc., through those IEPs. We're not going to tell you that we've maxed out if a team decides that a student needs a particular method of receiving their education. You're not going to be locked out of it if that's an issue for you.
Along with the registering of the online courses too, the students can register for more than 2 for fear of getting locked out. Of course, we've had several questions on it. They can register for 4 courses. They just can't take any more than, they won't be accepted into any more than 2. So it's related to that question, I'm assuming. No, it's not. All right, well, go ahead. So we're getting, I think we've answered a lot of the questions that we've had cards on. So, are we okay?
Well, I just want to say a couple of things. Number one, it's encouraging that some of you are leaving because I'm hoping your questions have been answered. I hope you're not just fired up mad at us. But I do want to emphasize again the registration period, April 4th through April 20th. As Dr. Farmer said, if we're maxing out, we structured a lottery, thank you. We structured a lottery system, and so it's not first come, first serve. And so don't feel like, oh, we want to spend some time thinking about which courses to apply for. I'm afraid I need to spit this out quick the very first day. We're gonna keep that open through the whole time, and don't worry about that. So Eric Welch gave me a question from the audience. Where can we see the list of courses offered by Florida Virtual? Tim? Actually, Laura is probably the best one to answer that. Where can we see the list of courses offered by Florida Virtual? Yeah, well, that's a good short answer online. To that point, I think we'll put in the FAQs with a link to make that a little easier for you.
Have y'all gotten forms or we're making copies? That's why we're trying to text them.
And again, whatever forms that we gave out hard copy, we're going to make sure that we have those posted online as well, and we'll send out a link. Yeah, there's a couple of questions in the back. I don't know if it's related to a current question or not. I'm going to work my way up, ma'am.
If you have 500 students that you want to take one course, will there be an option in the lottery process that some kids might be in 2 classes and some will be in none?
So Dr. Farmer, I'll let you answer that. The question is, if there happen to be, as an example, to use the extreme example, 500 students, each who chose one course, how will we structure the lottery for deciding between 2 courses versus 1? Is that the gist of your question?
Some kids can take 2 classes, and if other kids are not chosen, will they not be able to take any?
I get you. Charles? Okay.
I'm not a calculus teacher. I'm not sure how to answer that question. Because
Well, I think it's possible that they could be left out for the reason that we don't want to offer a course if only 5 kids have signed up for that course, right? So we want to maximize the number of students and the number of, with our number of teachers. So if a student were to sign up for 2 courses and those courses have large numbers and we can run both courses, that kid may end up with 2 courses, where another kid may sign up for chemistry and biology and only have 5 other kids sign up for that course and thus not be able to run that course specifically for that kid. I think given the fact though, I think we would want to have multiple kids. We want to give kids multiple opportunities to take it. I would answer that. And I'll go back to what Jason said at the beginning, with a room full of 500 people at parent meeting, this is kind of a high water mark. I think we have an opportunity to examine that number again too. So we'll leave it at that.
And so let's work our way up.
So if we don't, like they don't get into algebra 2 because it's full, can we say they're going to do this and that transfers, like we have that option, that can be online?
So, yeah.
So I'm going to play technical for a second. So I'm going to switch it to English too, because part of our expectation for math outside of these courses, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry have to be taken by a WCS teacher. That's just our process. And so let's go to English too, just for the interest of following our process. And so right now, there's nothing that we have decided that prohibits that. And so if a parent, if a student decides that they're not going to take English 2, or they don't get in the lottery or whatever else, as a parent, you can go through the process at Florida Virtual and sign up for courses. We haven't said no to that at this point.
They won't meet with Williams County teachers and all that.
So the comment, thank you. The comment was, but it won't be with Williamson County teachers. That is correct. It won't be with Williamson County teachers. And then also, if you go that route, just to reiterate what we've been saying, that would be a pass-fail as opposed to an ABC or.
Dr. Farmer, we got another question I think is very much worth answering. Where do we take the registration forms to? Your counselor at your school. That makes sense? Take everything to your counselor. Also, your counselor can answer some good one-on-one questions. I'm going to keep on working my way up. We've got about 10 or 12 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Last row there.
What is the student-teacher ratio?
So the question is, what is the student-teacher ratio? In a Williamson County course, the maximum student-teacher ratio is going to be 35. That is a state standard. Maximum course, maximum class for high school is 35. Yes, ma'am? In the back? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. What learning management system is Williamson County invested in?
So, as part of Florida Virtual will provide our platform. We'll be doing the scope and sequence that Williamson County students do. Their platform that we will inherit, if you will, is called Buzz. Buzz is the platform that our students that will be working through with our teachers will use.
This is more of a comment. I think this is awesome and it's great, but if you have a kid that's honors or AP, you're really have a ninth grader, there's not a lot of options, so just leave it on it to start, but hopefully there'll be honors and AP classes, more out there for students in those classes.
Thank you for that feedback. And like Dave said, we hear what y'all are saying with that tonight.
We got a number of questions on the cards I wanted to answer real quick. The number of you have asked, what about IEPs? I addressed it kind of indirectly. Every IEP is going to be individually driven. The team's going to work on that. They're going to determine whether an accommodation or a modification can be achieved through this, just like they do with everything else. So all those are going to be driven through your teams, through your IEP teams. Yes, ma'am, I know you've been holding for a while.
Yeah, this goes back to the student-teacher ratio. Do you anticipate students having access to their teacher more readily or frequently, and for that student that maybe struggles in math or English to have a little bit more one-on-one?
So the question is, do we anticipate kind of a different method of access to the teacher, more access, those kinds of questions? So you all, I'm going to have you fill in some detail if I miss it. Number one, we're going to have our teachers schedule office hours. But really as a threshold, we're looking for teachers that are looking to interact in a more open way with their students rather than strictly through the school day. And so there will be email communication. We expect that our teachers are going to respond, relatively quickly, to those emails. But we are going to make sure at a minimum they have office hours for those conversations. Anybody want to add some detail to that?
Yeah, and we're looking at, in the description that we will put out for hiring for the online teachers, to have a 12 to 8 work day as opposed to the 7 to 7:15 to 2:45 that typical teachers have. So it'll be, and that's just like current teachers. That doesn't mean they're only going to respond to emails or text messages from 12 to 8, but the expectation will be that they will be available later in the day. Yes, ma'am. Second question.
Yeah, so regarding the teachers, so you all have not hired yet for these online trainings, correct? And they could possibly be Williamson County teachers that maybe decide to go to online teaching?
So the question for those who didn't hear is, have we hired the teachers? That's correct, we have not, because we got to know what courses. And then, could there be some current teachers who are doing this? I'm going to pass to you to say, we're already actually doing personal finance, not through Florida Virtual, but we're doing it with a current teacher. And yes, it may well be teachers that are currently our teachers. Anything you want to add? Okay.
I want to add. So we're thinking in the terms of what I think of as full-time equivalents, which means a teacher may teach 0.2 of a full-time job online. They may also be teaching for us during the regular school day. And so we're going to have a blended model for teachers as well. A lot of that is going to be driven by which class is making which don't. And so I know, ma'am, you're holding your hand up, but I know this gentleman here has had his hand raised for a long time.
Can the child be enrolled in dual enrollment as well as online exclusively, not set foot inside of high school?
So Mr. Gaddis, Dr. Farmer, I'm going to hand this to you, but the question is, can a student be enrolled in dual enrollment and online exclusively and not a particular course at the school in the traditional setting?
So currently our board policy talks, it gives where students can only take a certain number of courses outside the day. It also speaks to the number of courses they have to be in the building during the day. And so during this first year, I don't see mathematically, sir, how that would work during the first year. Now again, as we roll this out, long term, I believe we're going to get there, because if Dr. Looney were here tonight, that's the vision that he has for this process. But as I think quickly, if you take the 2 courses through WCS and you think about the way a dual enrollment schedule works, I'm counting probably 2 classes still in the building.
So 6 total.
Plus, yes, sir, 6 total plus a study hall.
Another real quick. You're capped at 500. You have 1,200 students interested. Why can't you go to 1,000, 1,200 your first year?
We're going to discuss that.
So I was just asking Mr. Gold, it's really a function of our funding. The funding that we have to work with, but as he just also said too, and said to y'all, if that's the turnout we get over the next 2 weeks, then we're obviously going to say, we've got more than twice the number of kids we thought were going to do this, and that's something that we'll have to, that Mr. Golden and Dr. Linney will then have to determine if we have to go back to the board members and...
It's a great opportunity. So, at this moment, our board has approved our budget for the year. Our finance director, Leslie Holman, has projected that based on tax revenues through the end of the school year, including sales tax and property tax, we're probably about $10 million off from where we think the commission is at this point. The commission has not looked at our budget yet. Their first look at our budget is this coming Monday, a little bit less than a week from now. That's just based on preliminary discussions between her and the finance director. Every year we have this issue with projections versus where we end up until all the revenues come in through June 30th. But I tell you, we talked about this to our board. We anticipate this is going to be a difficult budget year. We're growing. We're opening 3 new schools. There are fixed costs associated with that. And as we grow, we naturally have an increased expense. So that's going to be, obviously, if it comes to it, that we've learned here that when we had 202 total, if all this makes, and we find out this is just something that you all have just been waiting for us to finally come out and say that we're committing to this, then that's something that we're going to discuss at the board level, and ultimately we're going to have to present the money side to the commission. Yes.
So am I hearing from you that we should be tonight or whenever we register for everything we would possibly be interested in, so you don't get into a situation where only 5 people sign up? If I'm willing to take Algebra 2, but I might not necessarily want to, I should go ahead and indicate my interest?
So the question is, I think, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, can we really just register for anything and hope that we get 2? And so the answer to that is yes. But I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for you as a parent, you as a student, you as a family, to really decide whether you want to do that. I'm the parent of a junior. I'm looking and I'm trying to think, would this be something that my daughter would enjoy or would be good at? It is not a fit for everyone. I've taught online courses at the collegiate level. I've taken online courses. This is not an easy approach, and I know that you're not sitting here wanting an easy approach, but we can't emphasize enough that this is not for everyone. And so I think, just personally, my own opinion, I think registering for everything, hoping that you get something, would be a misstep. So I think strategically, selfishly, and I'm just talking to you as a parent, two parents, my daughter might be a good fit for some courses, but not a good fit for all courses. So
I just want to mention to you guys, we have about 2 minutes before our scheduled time for what we intend to post. I did want to mention to you that Eric Welch and Casey Hall, a couple of your board members are here. Did want to thank you guys for being here. Are there any other board members in the audience? I didn't see anybody else close by. We have enough time for a couple more questions. And then once we officially close this out, we want you to come down and talk to us and get your questions answered if we missed you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned that rising seniors won't be given any preference in this lottery system. Because my senior is not a credit recovery problem. I'm going to take so many different things problem. So that's my concern. Is she not going to get in? I'm going to pay $450 for her to take this for the virtual? Because you got to graduate.
So, I guess where I kind of differ a little bit from your last response, and I know you're talking broadly, but I want it relates to your comment. So, there are going to be a finite number of seniors who sign up for the courses that we offer that are senior courses. So a kid can't, like a freshman can't sign up for English 2. And so you can't circle everything in there because you got to have English 1 before you have English 2 if you're a parent of a 9th grader. And so my opinion is the same thing applies here, is there aren't going to be 11th graders who are going to sign up for English 4 this first year, as an example. And so I'm not sure if that's what you're saying, but if seniors are signing up, then they're going to go into the mix like everybody else. So 2 of those are senior classes that only seniors can sign up for, the econ and the government. Well, personal finance is really a 9 through 12 course. So I think my response is, yeah,
we'll talk about that. I think that's an interesting point that we will discuss on that. And I kind of relate it to when your students apply for their dorm space, if you have some older children, the older ones sometimes get a little bit of priority over the freshmen. It's that kind of thinking is what you're asking about. We'll talk about that. Yes, ma'am.
In pertaining to these choices, rather than signing up for everything, for example, if I would want my son to be in school for Algebra 1, you offer, let's say you offer the 5 for rising freshmen. I don't want to automatically, if there's 2 courses I think you would excel in for online courses, I want to be able to sign up for those 2. I don't want to have to sign up for everything in hopes that we get the primary that I think he'd be ideal for versus the ones I think he would benefit being in school for. So is there a way to designate our first 2 choices, then a fallback, rather than just circling everything? Because I think English 1 and Algebra he'd be great in school, but the other ones he'd be fine out of school. I'm just hesitant to sign up for everything, then we end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Is there a way to designate that for any of us?
Obviously, they're discussing it, so that's an interesting point. We'll consider that. Your question is, in essence, rather than sign up for everything, can we designate priorities? I do want to tell you, I'm going to close it out and invite those of you with your hands up, come on down if you haven't worn out your arm. Thank you guys so much for coming. Please come on down, those of you who haven't gotten your questions answered. We want to be able to answer them for everyone online. Thank you.